Hello everyone. It's Elena Bartosz, your real estate investor. Today, my podcast guest is known person in Sub2 community. For those who doesn't know, Sub2 community is a large community created by Morbi, and we everyone united in this community under one idea, real estate. So we all are investors. Caleb is an investor as well. He has very interesting background. He came from cybersecurity, and right now he runs several businesses, includes GC. And okay, let Caleb introduce his business by himself. Hi, Caleb.
Hello there. Hi, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thank you so much for being today with us. Yeah, how are you today? How is your day?
I dropped my pen. I'm having a good day. It's the day before Thanksgiving, so everything's slowed down. Title
Yeah.
companies are all shut down. Easy afternoon.
Oh yeah. Oh yes. But anyway, real estate is still with us, right?
That's right. So get off your job and come watch
Absolutely.
this. I love what you're doing
Yeah.
with the series. I think it's fantastic. A lot of good insights in here.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Caleb. Yeah, I'm trying to invite the best people, the best experts who can bring value to our community, and for those who is not in Sub2, for those who just interested to start investing in real estate. Yeah, to give people really valuable information
Absolutely.
how we can help them to start or to scale, to improve. Yeah, again, thank you so much, Caleb, to be today my guest. It's my honor. Could you please introduce a little bit for people who doesn't know you, or who
Yeah.
knows you but doesn't know enough about you?
Well, how can you start? No, I come from cybersecurity, like the title of the podcast here is. I come from cybersecurity. Before that, though, I was physical security. I used to be a prison guard, and so
Oh,
security and risk management. I've just been immersed in risk management, just asking what could go wrong when you start doing something. What could go wrong with that? And you have to do a lot of that, the scenarios and practice
yeah.
drills and just thinking through stuff when you're working at a prison, and the same thing in cybersecurity. And so and then I came to real estate, and so I'm constantly thinking, what's the best way to do this, and what could go wrong. And once I figure out what could go wrong, what could we do to prevent it in the first place? Can I pre-fix it? Can I just make it not possible for that bad thing to happen? And that's been a driving force for me. It's how I think. So that's
Yeah.
what I do with real estate. I help people. I mean, if you're going to teach a kid to ride a bike, you put a helmet on them. And there's a lot of people learning how to do creative finance, which I love. Creative finance has been my jam. But there's a lot of people riding around or starting to ride without helmets, and I'm like, hey, there's a safer way to do what you're trying to get done here.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great topic actually related to main topic for my podcast, private money lenders. I believe
Absolutely.
your background helps you to protect lenders against mistakes and borrowers against mistakes, right? Maybe.
Yep.
So this is my next question actually. Uh, how your cybersecurity set of mind helps you in your current real estate investment business?
Well, so the one company is Creative TC. I'm wearing the brand. Creative TC is Creative Transaction Consultants, and so we do help with lending. We do help with creative real estate transactions, and we are actively consulting into deals. Everybody has templates, but templates are just the start. You deserve attention and not just templates. And so we cannot replace an attorney, but we come in asking questions and making sure we understand what your intended
Mm-hmm.
outcome is. A lot of times, like Elena, if you approached me and said, I want to do a loan for this much and here's my paperwork, I would say, what do you need me for? Let's talk about what your objectives are and dig into your goals so I can make sure that the paperwork reflects what you said you actually wanted to happen. Because I see it all the
Mm-hmm.
time where people have a contract or some sort of agreement, whether verbal or written, and the final documents do not reflect that, or they don't realize that the terms that they put together are unenforceable, not valid in that state, etc.
Yeah, actually, what would you suggest to people who come to you as in to GC? What kind of documents? What we should pay attention on to protect our lenders
Yeah,
and to
I
protect all transaction?
if I'm a lender, I'm not going to use the title company's lending docs. I'm going to want my own. You're the lender. You're the one you're giving a loan to somebody. It's on your terms. Lenders, you need to have your own favorite promissory note, your own favorite deed of trust or mortgage, etc.
Mm,
And
mm,
if you're willy-nilly opportunistic, one deal here in this state, one deal in this state, one deal in this state, that's great. You're getting started, but we can really tell professionalism and progress when I see somebody focused on one state or set of states and they've got their own documents. Like that's the next level
mm,
of maturity. Go do some deals, but like you also need to build your own set of documents and they do need to be state specific or at least accommodate state specific things. And so you can have a master template that sub modifies for state riders or different attachments, but you have to know that there's usury rates in different states. They differ from state to state. It depends on what position and loan you're going into. So number one, having your own documents is a sign of maturity that I see in lenders. Number two would be understanding the real transaction, not just saying, oh, I get second position for $20,000 and a big fat return on top, blah, blah, blah. Qualifying the borrower obviously is a separate piece, but just knowing that you're going in second position isn't enough. You need to understand the deal and whether or not the person is going to make it work. I mean, deals don't default, people do. And so you're lending to a person.
mm.
I don't care if there's a company name, you're lending to a person. Do you trust that person? Is that person trustworthy?
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much, Caleb. I absolutely agree. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And most of our lenders, I mean, creative lenders for creative buyers, people who understand conception of creating finance, they are okay about second lien position, sometimes third lien position, and but anyway, people who never tried second position would, let's say, what are the difference with documentation, with the transaction process for people who will be sitting on first lien position and second lien position?
I like it. What's the difference in process and paperwork that you would use for somebody
Yeah,
who's lending
yeah.
first, second, or third position? Good question. In first position, you're in the strongest position. What that means is you're first lien, you're the first one recorded. I'm going to go back to basics just to make sure we understand everything. It's literally when you go to the county recorder's office and start recording documents, it's literally the order in which they're recorded. So in a closing, if we zoom in on the time scale of what happens, you sign a stink ton of documents, just a pile of them at a closing. And then you've got a loan, an old lender who's got a payoff statement. And so somebody puts dollars into escrow, the lender, but those dollars that are trapped in escrow cannot get released until the new lender's documents are also signed. And so the escrow holds documents and dollars. Once the dollars are in and the documents are in and verified and all acceptable, then they'll close the transaction, which means they fund out to pay off the old lender, and then the deed transfers. And so now we get to this recording timescale. First, we have a release of deed of trust or mortgage, like a satisfaction. Then we have a deed transfer from the seller to the buyer. And so technically the buyer owns the property. And then based on that authority that was established a half a second ago electronically, now they have the authority to sign a mortgage over to a lender. Remember, lenders don't give mortgages to borrowers. Lenders give money to borrowers, and borrowers give mortgages or deeds of trust to the lenders, which gives them the right to foreclose. So we have a release, we have a new deed transfer. Now, based on that authority, the buyer now can give a mortgage to a lender. And so all that happens really fast, but the first position lender is the one that gets paid first if there's a foreclosure. And so if you're
Yeah.
in second position and the house or the property doesn't have enough equity to go to auction and pay you off, you're maybe not getting paid at all, or third position. And so but the documents really aren't any different. You're going to have a promissory note. That's somebody promising, I'm going to pay you this much money over this much time. And you've got a security instrument, whether it's a mortgage or a deed of trust. Always, it's those two things, a promissory note and a security instrument. You can strengthen the security instrument if you have a personal guarantee. That's a good way to strengthen it. But
Yeah,
ultimately,
but
it's
what
those two
about
documents every time.
perfect? But you said just in promissory note, it's related to flat lending. What about equity partnership? If lender wants to be partner for this deal, how it related to UTC business? What are the
I
extra
love it.
documents do you need?
I love it. I It's funny how often something comes up when you talk about it one time and it comes up 5 times in a week. So I've been talking about this with somebody else, and I see a lot of people who are trained to JV and lend on the same property with the same dollars, and I've never been okay with that. When you joint venture, you're a partner on the deal. You're not a borrower
Mm-hmm.
or a lender. And so if you really insist on lending and partnering, separate the dollars. $10 lending, $10 partnering. But whenever you partner, that money is at risk. If the project fails, that money is lost because you're an investor. And when deals go south for investors, the money is lost, or part of it is. There's no guaranteed return that way. That's why people don't like that. But if you're a partner on the deal and it defaults, you've defaulted on yourself. How are you going to foreclose as a lender? Uh, I think luckily that hasn't really come up in court. Nobody's been litigious enough to push back on it really hard. But I think anybody who's a lender who's got a combination JV and promissory note is in pretty hot water if that deal goes south and the other side decides to
Mm-hmm.
get an attorney. So
Yeah.
when you want to partner, you need a quality JV agreement if it's a short-term loan. But if you're in there for not loan, we need to use the right words. If it's a short-term partnership, I think a JV agreement may suffice. But that's going to play the same role as the operating agreement of an LLC. If you form a joint LLC or join into somebody else's LLC, then
Mm-hmm.
you're going to want to update the operating agreement or add a resolution that guarantees your returns. So you can still structure the same thing as a loan with preferred returns. Now, the difference between partnership and lending when you run into trouble is that when you've lent money, there's a tried and true and tested process to foreclose and get paid back or take the property at auction. That's all, well, it's adjudicated. There's not much room for debate. It's a well established process. That's stable and secure. And you know how much that's going to cost
Mm-hmm.
and how long it's going to take. When you partner and something goes wrong, there's not an established process. You have to go in front of a judge or some arbitrator and argue your case and spend money and dig and fight, and everybody gets mad and everybody wastes a bunch of money. It's like that's the difference. A partnership can get really messy. A loan is pretty straightforward and clean. Loans have limits though, so you have this downside. If you want this unlimited upside of profit sharing, that's not a lender. That's a JV partner, you guys. A JV partner has the unlimited
Mm-hmm.
upside. If the deal goes really good for you. But if it goes really bad, you've lost the money. With lending, you still can lose the money if the deal goes completely south and there's not enough equity to pay you back. But you have the right of foreclosure. You're capped on an interest rate in most states with usury laws. And so the people who want these fantastic returns, you're an investor, not a lender. And so if you want that and you want some security and you want the ability to foreclose, I would say lend some money and partner with some money. And you can make a blended rate that ends up what you wanted it to be in the first place, but I would never both lend and JV with the same dollar bill.
Yeah.
Does that
Yeah.
make
I like
sense?
this. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely makes sense. With the, yeah, it's great suggestion not to put everything in one basket, right? Diversify
Yeah.
your investment.
Yep. And well, even if it's on the same project, and I wouldn't be the same entity, like Caleb Lending LLC would not both be the lender and the partner on the deal. Heck no, tech no, we're not doing that because I don't want to be the borrower and the JV partner on the same or and the lender on the same deal. If I JV in, I'm a borrower. If I lend, I'm a lender. If I joined in,
Mm-hmm.
I'm borrowing from myself. I'm not going to use the same company for that. It doesn't work. I mean, thankfully, for most people, I think so far, it works until it doesn't. And most times it works, right? Security is about stopping the crazy things from happening. Risk management is about stopping the crazy things. If everything always went bad, people just wouldn't do stuff. But it goes right more often than not, and you have security instruments and agreements in place to help back up your plan.
Yeah, very cool. And for those who just starting their real estate investment business, Caleb just mentioned document promissory note. Promissory note, this is the document that borrower and lender sign in case a lender lends money to borrower, to investor. And promissory note, this is a document that says every single step how borrower will perform, for example, how often an investor will send to lender check. For example, how often they will meet together to discuss current situation about their business, whatever, all kind of reports, all kind of Zooms, meetings, phone calls, regularity, and everything. And this document absolutely legally will be recorded in deed of trust against this property. So it's absolutely legal document regulated by law. It's very important to understand we have to sign this document. And as Caleb mentioned, really, for situation with PML, private money lender, PMP, equity partner, there are some nuances with documentation. So, guys, we really need to be careful with documents, and we really need good TCs who can control all the transaction process. Yeah, cool. Thank you so much, Caleb. Yeah, and let's come back a little bit back. What is how your journey in real estate started? What was motivation, or what is your story?
Yeah, my parents had a rental property as I all my life I've known they've had a rental property. It's a small little place and they paid it off halfway through my childhood and they treat it like a savings account. And so I knew that real estate was like, oh good, it's like a safety net for my parents. So real estate's kind of a safety net. Cool. I should buy an extra house sometime whenever I can. That's what I grew up knowing. And then I bought my first house, which was great, and then I became an accidental landlord, and that means I couldn't sell my house for what I wanted, and so I was forced to rent it out. I refinanced it and rented it to somebody, and that makes me an accidental landlord, and I was able to
Mm,
buy the next property. But
I love it.
then I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and I was just dumbfounded at how much time I had wasted. I was in my early 30s, I think. I'm 37 now, so I was in my early 30s reading Rich Dad Poor Dad like, "Oh, what a waste of I've wasted so much time not buying real estate. Now I've got 3 or 4 kids. It's really tough to be really agile and buying properties that you live in and rehab and things like that. Like I wanted to
Mhm.
house hack and all this other stuff, but it was already too late to do a lot of that having multiple kids. I love them. It's not I'm not saying I regret my
Absolutely,
children. It's
of
just
course,
it's just
of
like the
course.
timing in life. I would much rather have been fully focused at 22 on let me buy the cheapest house I can possibly get into it, fix it up a little bit, and turn it into a rental, and turn around and do the next one, and the next one, and the next one, until I have a small portfolio of rentals that 10 years later would be paying me profits of $400, $500, $600 a month. Are you kidding me? How much easier would my life be right now? How much further ahead would I be? So that was the revelation I had when I read Rich Dad Poor Dad. And that's what pushed me
Yes.
into I've got to do some real estate.
Yeah. So anyway, your main focus is on buy and hold, right? Not on TC, not on other stuff. Anyway, my let's say long-term goal to buy and hold.
Yes, my goal is to buy long-term hold properties. Actively right now, I've got Creative TC as a business. It's running. I own it. It's 2.5 years old, and I've started a new company called DOS Guard, and that
Mm-hmm.
provides it's a guarantee against due on sale for people doing subject to deals. So speaking to
Mm-hmm.
lenders, by the way, a lot of times you guys, you're coming in as a private money partner or lender, and the person running the deal has little or none of their own cash coming in. So if they don't have any skin in the game, they should pay to protect yours. And when you're doing a subject to deal, DOS Guard is that protection. We're here to stand in and stop the due on sale from taking out your deal where you have no equity to get paid back if it had to go to auction or sale in a foreclosure. So from a lending and partnering perspective, that's a valuable piece. If they're not going to if they're not going to put skin in the game, they should pay to protect yours. So those two companies I have right now, and that just launched, and that's my active focus. I have a couple of properties now, but every time I spend time trying to buy a property, I neglect the growth area that my business needs. And so I'm going to continue growing businesses for now. If a opportunity comes across my table, maybe I'll take one, but I'm not actively looking for properties right now.
Ah, okay. Yeah. So you switched your focus a little bit. Yeah. Okay. Cool. How big is your team, Caleb?
How big?
Yep.
Yeah, I have
How big is
13
your
people.
team?
Creative
Mm-hmm.
TC has 13 people on board, and we are cranking a few dozen deals a month.
Yeah. Cool. And your clients are mostly from people from sub two, or you have different type
Mostly,
of clients?
I would say mostly sub two and Pace Morby's free creative real estate group. That's where I pump a ton of value. I do video responses on posts. I think there's maybe not enough lending questions. Maybe I'm not in the right groups. I should be in different groups to answer. But I would love. This is an invitation. Anybody watching, find a group that I'm in and tag me on Facebook, and I will generally respond, and I'll do a video response because I want to provide the most value to the most people. I want to raise the bar with, hey, this is the new standard for getting these deals done right. Let's put some helmets on and be safe out there.
Yeah, it's absolutely necessary. We just closed our first creative deal in Dallas, in Texas, and honestly,
Perfect.
it was, thank you so much. It was so much. We had so much joy when we got this new. We have this property, but if we would not have good TC, I have no idea how we would survive. After we started all this paper process, it took some time, and every day so many questions, so many signatures, so many nuances. I have no idea how people can do it without good TC, really.
Yep.
And
I
especially, yeah.
catch the fallout. Every once in a while somebody comes to me asking for me to clean up and fix stuff. In fact, it's November, it's late November right now. It's one of those
Yep.
things that I'm thinking of offering in my slow months, which is some of December and usually February. But previously closed
Hmm.
transactions, if you want a second set of eyes and make sure your paperwork on an already closed transaction is done, that it's done right, my team will be doing those reviews as well.
Yes, absolutely. For our guys who are watching us right now, I will put Caleb's Facebook link and his couple links to his social medias under this video. So this video will be saved in my on my YouTube channel. Please feel free to reach out to Caleb directly and ask any questions.
Yeah,
Cool. Thank you so much,
I get a lot of
Caleb.
comments either in person or on my Instagram about the short video content, just punchy stuff. Like I would take this and pull out my punchlines and
Mhm.
drop them straight into Instagram.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you so much. And another part of your, I mean, professional, personal life. So you are underwriter. Let's talk
Yes.
a little bit about underwriting. What we should understand underwriting properties to protect ourselves and to protect our lenders first.
Yep. Now I got into underwriting because I joined somebody's team and was a lead manager. And I only wanted to do creative deals. Don't make me do cash. I feel like a dirtbag when I sling low cash offers. I get it. I'm not saying that it's wrong or that anything about that. I just don't like that. There's certain things I definitely don't like. So I only wanted to
Mhm.
work creative deals, but I needed to be able to adjust numbers on the fly and see what would work. And I'm a very conservative underwriter. And so I had to build my own spreadsheet. And I built a spreadsheet. I have creativeunderwriter.com, I believe it is, where this spreadsheet, and I gave it away to Sub 2. So if you're in Sub 2, just search Caleb Christopher spreadsheet, and you'll get it with a 5-minute how-to video. And the thing is, it's dead simple. That all the other spreadsheets have like 14 colors, bright flashing, who knows what else in your face. But this is, does the deal cash flow or not? There's like 3 colors on the entire thing, and it when somebody can show you that they've underwritten where they've got the numbers, the PITI versus income, et cetera, and expenses,
Mm.
and they've got reasonable reserves. What you're looking for as a lender is, do they understand their own work? Have they been able to add comments that explain why the number is what it is? Because if you're good at underwriting, if you know what you're looking at, and they have a comment to explain where their assumption came from, that just makes you all the more confident that they know what they're doing. Or if you see that their number is different from what you would think is appropriate, you can adjust for it manually and say, I still think this is going to be safe or okay, or their number is way off and I know why. I'm going to go to them and see if they're going to fix it. But as a lender, I would want to know that my borrower has it underwritten, not
Mhm.
not on a big stretch. I would want to know that it's underwritten in a way that it's going to cash flow and I'm going to be able to get paid back. Asking, especially if you're lending in second position, what's your plan for paying me back? How are you going to pay me back? It's huge, just huge.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And what kind of exit strategy do you do underwriting for? Long term, mid term, part split, or you do all of them?
All of them. I just wrote an underwriting process for my team and I started training them on that. But long term is obviously the baseline. You always start with that. Will it cash flow for that or not? That's always a good, safe fallback strategy. So ideally, you're at least
Mhm.
break even on the long-term rents. Some people say,
Yeah,
oh, it
this
won't
is
work as a long-term rental, therefore it must be a wrap. Some things are not good wraps. So you can't just say that all the time. So we'll underwrite for long-term rental, and then
mhm.
if you want, we'll underwrite for short-term and mid-term rental. Mid-term and pad split, I combine into one. I'm going to look at one of them, and then wrap is a separate underwrite.
Yeah, yeah. So what are the nuances, for example? So you want to say if property works as in long term, you go deeply. If it doesn't, you don't go.
Well, it depends on if the investor is cashed up to handle the difference if the other strategies don't work very well. So when you're
Yeah.
long-term rental, you have what, 1 to 3 months worth of vacancy. A wrap, your closing costs are not your entry fee. Your entry fee should include 6 months of PITI and
Hmm.
utilities as well, because it's not going to sell. You're not going to close and have it sold immediately. It's just, it doesn't happen that way. And then people think that they can get it sold in 45 days. BS. You are tricking yourself. And so you really need cash reserves or a lender or partner or whoever that's going to have enough cash to carry that payment for at least 6 months. If you're not
Hmm.
budgeting for that, I don't take you seriously.
Mm.
Ideally, it sells
Interesting.
in 30
six
to
months.
45 or 60 days. But if it doesn't, are you going to go bankrupt? Like the lending with no money, or sorry, let me say this over. Doing deals with zero money out of pocket is real cool. But doing zero doing deals with $0 in your pocket is really uncool. You should have savings. You should have the ability to respond to financial emergencies. So it's okay to do zero out of pocket deals. It's not okay to do zero in your pocket deals.
Yeah. 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 Great. Great. Great suggestion. So it's huge responsibility, right? It's like you said, it's cool to buy properties with zero money of your own pocket, but it's such a huge responsibility. And I know many people they even afraid to take action because they feel they're afraid to lose someone's money. And this is kind of mindset, but this is argument.
Well, again, it goes back to the thing where you're, as a lender, if you're underwriting conservatively so that you're not going to lose money, you're picking good candidates. Meanwhile, there are other lenders who don't care as much as you, and they do lend on the dumb stuff. And the problem is, it works most of the time. It works until it doesn't. And so you feel like I must have my math wrong. No, you don't.
Mm,
You're doing it conservatively and you're doing it safely. If your goal is to be safe, you're doing the right thing. It's just other people are so unsafe that you're like, am I missing out on things? Don't get discouraged. Wait for the right deal, especially if you're extra conscientious about it. Reality is just going to punch you in the face when you're like, okay, fine, I'm just going to lend on one like everybody else does. Psych, that's the one that goes default. It's the worst. Stick to your
yeah.
guns.
What would you suggest to pay attention on in underwriting? Let's say some people pay attention only on cash return. Some people pay attention only on cash flow. But what are the most important parts of underwriting for you and for lenders you know?
It needs to be something that makes sense. So cash on cash return is a good starting point. When you're trying to get the deal under
Mhm.
contract, you're looking at cash on cash return. When you're looking at owning the property, you can look at the total, like the internal rate of return, which is the total capturing appreciation and depreciation, all the other things. You can look at that, but that means nothing to a lender. I don't care that you're going to get 40% cash or internal rate of return if it cash flows $4 a month. Good for you. You're
Mhm.
building
Of course.
equity. That does not pay me back. It does make me safer as a lender. It does make me safer that if I had to foreclose, it'll have the equity to pay me off. But cash on cash return is a good starting point. I'm looking at how many dollars are they actually getting in, and do they actually have cash
Mhm.
reserves? Are they going with gross cash flow or net cash flow? And have they
Mhm.
adjusted for taxes and insurance to change after closing, especially if it's a sub two? If they haven't factored all that stuff in, you're playing junior leagues with these people. They might as well be writing contracts and underwriting with crayons. They don't know what they're doing.
Yeah. So
Does
what
and
to
I
do
don't
to
care.
newbies?
Sorry,
Yeah.
but I don't care how many deals they've done. There are people who've done dozens of deals and they're still kindergartners when it comes to underwriting and understanding how to do deals. What they got good at is having conversations with people and building enthusiasm so that lenders jump on board. And then there's mass defaults and other fallout. It has happened more than once. I know some people watching will know a couple of names, but that's not the only instance. And it doesn't matter if they've done one deal or 10 deals, it still needs to be underwritten well and have cash reserves. If somebody provides you proof of funds to do a deal, and their proof of funds is only what's needed for the deal plus $1,000, well, where is their cash reserves? I need to know that you actually can respond to an emergency, because if you're going broke just to do the deal, like I said, it's not good to do a deal with $0 in your pocket. Show me that you're going to have some money left over after closing and after the entry fee.
Yeah. And you recommend to have 6 months holding costs, right?
For a wrap, but not necessarily for everything else. I mean, a rental if you're adding to a rental portfolio of 15 houses already, you don't need 6 months of carrying costs for each house. I think there's some
Yeah.
flat dollar amount, but there's some reasonable number that's in there. It's definitely not zero,
Yeah,
but
maybe
I don't
some
think,
analytics will help.
yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Yep, cool. Especially, so it says for me, for newbies, it will be kind of difficult because really we need to build reserve, right, for several months, at least for 6 months, to be able to pay off in case of vacancies, unexpected vacancies. And what is your strategy while you underwrite to predict vacancies?
I just put 5%, unless it's something other than long-term rental. If you're talking long-term rental, 5% vacancy is my default that I just go to. No big deal.
Okay. Yeah. What about co-living? What about part split?
I usually, there's different calculators for that stuff. I'll either push it up a little bit manually, or like when I'm doing short-term rental,
Mm-hmm.
I was using data.rabu the last time, data.rabu.com. I like them a lot. I don't know how up to date their data is, but it's been a good interface for me being able to filter specifically. But vacancy is built into that. They'll take the nightly rate times the vacancy, and then I just pull that number straight into my spreadsheet. Otherwise, I would take the daily rate or nightly rate and adjust my vacancy to suit. But
Mm-hmm.
if you're looking at a single house for pad split and it's got 7 rooms, how often do you think all 7 rooms are going to be occupied? I don't think the place after it gets started, I doubt the place would be 100% empty at any given point. And so
Yeah.
5% is not bad, but I might push it to 10 for conservatism.
Yeah. This is why. So everything has pluses and minuses, right? For example, co-living conception, it gives you potentially good income, but in the same case, at the same time, like Caleb just mentioned, it's more risky with additional vacancies. So this is great strategy to get stuck with part split
Well,
zip codes.
and it may have no vacancy for quite a while. It may be
Yeah.
fully occupied and wonderful and cash flow great. But the other thing with the pad split stuff is you're usually taking a house that you have to do extra work on. So your entry fee is higher because you got to put up new walls and swap out locks and make other changes to
Yeah.
the property. And so the entry fee doubles on these properties. So now your cash on cash return is cut in half unless your income doubles from doing that. Also, those changes devalue the property. So if your exit strategy or your fallback is to, oh, if it goes wrong, I can just sell it. Well, you can sell it for less than you paid for it if you do it too quickly, because it's worth less with all these extra walls put up. That's not a house, that's a dormitory.
Yeah, actually, this is my main thoughts for a couple of weeks because, yeah, like you just said, I noticed that entry fee for co-living property is always high. So how market should? It will be hypothetical question. I guess you don't even have to answer. You don't have to answer this question, but I'm just keep thinking how market should adjust lenders and borrowers and investors their mindset when we start to understand that entry fee for co-living property usually really double 2 times higher than for long term.
Yep.
It's yeah, it's something. It's mindset. It's additional risk.
How do you
And
offset that? I don't know that you can necessarily, although having long-term rental as a
mm,
fallback strategy is good. But even then, to convert down to a long-term rental, you have to deconstruct walls.
yeah,
You're kind of taking a one-way trip, and so you need to be reasonably certain about your co-living strategy. I would be making
yeah,
sure to invite a partner or somebody who's done it before and who's confident about that market.
yeah, yeah. This is a really good suggestion. Really, to start with co-living. Yeah. Plus, we need to understand our contractors should be experienced in co-living. They should, per my understanding, they should build walls the way to remove them easily, just in case.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, legal part of this business will change. Government will prohibit co-living or whatever. You never know.
Yep. And when
Yep,
that
right.
happens, now what? So if you bought a property for 400,000, but you had to make additional changes to the property, and your total entry pushed you up to like 455, and the normal sale price you bought it at full price. Well, now once you do those changes, it's worth 365, 370.
Mhm.
So you've already lost several thousand, tens of thousands of dollars, and you're overpriced. So here's market price, which you bought it at. Then you put this much money to it to make it this worth this much down here.
Mhm.
Now your gap is huge. You really better be committed to that strategy. And if you don't understand it as a goer, the person who's doing it, or as a lender who's gonna or a partner who's gonna join on that thing, you need to understand that you're starting here, you're spending this, and you're dropping the value down here. Your gap is pretty stinking big if you had to bail out of that deal.
Yeah, this is the truth. Yeah, we should be very careful with property selection, with location selection, correct? To avoid some unexpected nuances. Yeah, right. You're right.
And who
Cool.
you ride with
So,
makes the difference, because if somebody's they don't even have full control, but riding with somebody who's done it multiple times, especially in the same area, is a thumbs up for stability. However, if they're all in the very same area, and the government changes regulation in that smaller region, now all of their deals are upside down. So even if you go with somebody who's experienced, be careful. I don't want to be a fear monger here, but there is an abundance of caution needed, and you need to understand the landscape and exit strategies. Better yet, as a lender, your borrower or the person you're partnering with needs to understand exit strategies. And if they're full steam ahead with this one strategy, and there's no fallback plans and no risk analysis, and they can't answer questions as if they had already thought about them, then you're dealing with junior leagues, and that's high risk.
yeah, risk is everywhere and always in any business. Let's talk about something more inspirational because so far only about risk. Yeah, I understand, Kelly, where it's from. It's your cybersecurity guy, your security guy. You try to warn people to give them maximum information how they can protect it themselves. Did you have any funny situation with your clients, with your lenders, maybe with borrowers?
No, uh, I say no. Yes, there are, but my team is running most of the deals now, and they tell me a funny story every now and then. But I usually only hear the sob stories, because I'm at the
Oh,
top of the organization, right? I'm consulting on the most complex when things go wrong, and so most of what I see is stuff that's on fire.
oh, it's
So
sad.
I can tell more crazy stories than funny stories of things
Okay,
going
tell
wrong.
us a couple crazy stories to warn people. Just give couple of good examples.
Again, in the context of a lender, you need to be sure that the insurance on a property is correct. There's a lot of sub two buyers out there who don't change the insurance. They don't get new insurance for a property. Well,
Mm,
guess what? If you lend on the property and there's a total loss, and the insurance coverage doesn't cover anything, then it's a total loss and you're not getting paid either. Too bad, so sad.
yeah.
And it ain't no joke either, because that's what happened to somebody else. They didn't get a new policy. They left the seller's policy in place. The tenants, when moving out, burned the property down, and insurance denied the claim because the primary insured did not own the property anymore.
Mm,
And now everybody on the deal is sunk, and the seller has a judgment. I don't know if the seller has a judgment. The lender has the right to go after the seller for a judgment for the deficiency, several $100,000. Follow them around
Oh,
for the rest
wow.
of their life. So I see stuff like that's what Caleb sees is like the absolutely insane. How did it possibly go this far wrong? And so when I say you got to be careful about stuff, it's because I've either thought ahead and seen it, what could happen, or I've actually seen it come in. And my documents and templates receive updates. Every time I hear a story, I'm like, ooh, is that possible? Is that even possible with our documents? And generally the answer is no, but sometimes it's, oh, you know what? I could tweak a word, I could add a phrase, I could add a section or an extra endorsement. And I go make the updates to our documents, and my team just always has the latest and greatest with version numbers on them.
Hmm. Yeah.
But that was the worst loss I've seen is a insurance totally denying the claim. So, but lenders need to know how to read insurance declarations and make sure that they are either a mortgagee or a loss payee. Like understanding that is critical, and then making sure your person, your borrower, actually sends you a copy and proof of it, and proof that they remain current, that they haven't canceled it. When you're added as a mortgagee, you'll get notices. When you're added as an additional interest, you'll get notices if the policy is going to get canceled. They send those notices 30 days in advance. So if you don't show up on their insurance paperwork, you're not going to get notified if and when they cancel. That also gives you an opportunity to understand who's the primary insured. Is this even the right policy for the intended use of the property? You can't get a landlord policy if it's going to be vacant and you're doing construction. That's not the right policy. I don't care if you're going to rent it out. Right now, you need a
Hmm.
builder's policy. Then you'll switch to a landlord policy. Things like that all matter.
Policies, policies, policies. And what do you think? Is it necessarily for lenders to have underwriting skills, or they don't have to be
Yeah.
able to underwrite? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. You need to understand it. Well, you need to know it well enough to be able to call BS. If you see somebody blowing smoke, you should you should be able to identify that. You should have your own opinions about the numbers and be able to have an intelligent discussion about show me your underwriting for this property. Where are you getting these numbers from? And if they can't document that stuff, that's not good.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I agree. So some people have such illusion, even if they have money, they can just lend, get double-digit returns, and live happy life. But to be a lender, this is hard job.
Yeah, it's almost
It's
like I feel like a lot of times people should graduate to being a lender after having done deals for themselves. Like here,
mhm,
I'm gonna update my video feed real quick. This is an underwriting for a property, for example. The this is with my spreadsheet. I'm underwriting
mhm,
for a midterm rental, and you'll see
mhm,
here I've got comment. We've got principal and interest number one. That's PITI. I can't even make it any bigger. There and then
mhm,
$550 a month. Well, that's PML second position. What is it? $55,000 interest only at 12%. So $550 a month.
mhm.
Like that explains where the expenses are, what utilities are included. I forgot water when I did this the first time, and somebody said, "You don't have to pay water." Oh yeah, let me add that to it, and I upped the bill just a little bit. Right. So where is the money going, and why is it there? Then closing
Yeah.
costs, entry fee, etc. You know, midterm rental. So why is your renovation $18,000 on this deal? Well, as a midterm rental, I'm spending $6,000 per bedroom to furnish the entire house, is the idea. And they
Mhm.
should be able to explain that. Like having an underwriting sheet with no explanations is it's useless. It doesn't tell you what you need to
Yep.
know. It's all guesswork. But if you tell me where the guesses came from, or your rent rates say Zillow's rent estimate says $1,200 a month, and
Mhm.
Rentometer says $1,350, and something else says, and here's our blended rate, we're going with $1,275. Now it makes sense. You're data driven.
Yeah. Caleb, what kind of sources to improve underwriting skills would you suggest to people?
I wish my underwriting course was up. I have a tech issue on that, but watch for creativeunderwriter.com. It should be re-releasing soon. I've got a course on exactly what I was talking about with the spreadsheet. It includes the spreadsheet, but and I teach borrowers or people doing deals. I teach them to use that spreadsheet and put in some stinking comments so that they can publish that
Mhm.
to any potential lenders, and the lender can see, oh, this is where they got their numbers. This is this deal either makes sense. You can tell a lot about a deal looking at those numbers and about a person. But learning to
Yeah,
underwrite
yeah.
is comping for doing rent comps, knowing how to use Rentometer, rentometer.com, having
Hmm.
somewhere you can look up rent comps, understanding that it takes longer to do anything in an area that has less population.
Yeah,
But
it's
as
good
I teach people
advice.
to underwrite, when I'm teaching people to underwrite, I go through the rules, but I can already tell what's a bad deal. Like when you're good at something, you already know the answer. Even if you don't have to follow all the steps. Like I know this is going to come out to be low or no cash flow in as
Hmm.
a long-term rental and a wrap and something else. This already is not a deal. I don't need to waste time on it. But when I'm teaching people, I go through the steps and I'm like, this is not going to be a good deal. And they're like, I don't see it. Why? Well, continue gathering information, and by the time you start seeing patterns, and you can start to tell that if PITI is this and it's in this state, like Texas with a VA loan, guess what? If there's a VA loan, it's probably a veteran that owns the property.
Yeah.
Pretty good chances. So if you're buying it subject to and it's in Texas where there's no income tax, what do they have instead of income tax? Do you know?
Hmm.
Really high property taxes. So,
Yep.
but veterans don't have to pay property taxes. And so if you're buying a property in Texas from and it's a sub 2 and it's a VA loan, they probably pay zero property taxes in your annual tax bill on your PITI from your monthly mortgage statement. It's not going to include your taxes, and they're going to go from zero to $12,000 a year. Are you ready to pay $1,000 a month in taxes? When you look at that underwriting, does it factor for what type of loan it is and any changes in taxes and insurance after closing, or is that going to eat your deal alive?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a ton of
So
those
much
little
to know.
rules.
So
It
much
is.
to know. And you just mentioned, so every state has own regulation, own taxes, and several states right now tends to increase their taxes, like Florida or
Mm-hmm.
HOA, for example. Right? We need to
Yep.
understand HOA. Yeah,
Yep.
I don't know why people buy with HOA because it can get up dramatically. It can
Yep.
change all your game.
It
No
sure can.
houses with HOA. Yeah. Yeah, Kelly, thank you so much. We probably have a couple minutes left. So, guys who are watching us, if you have questions, please feel free to ask Caleb in the chat. You see, he's open, he's happy to share. And on your side, Caleb, if you have something to say in last minute for people who watch us right now, who will be watching us in the future, through your prism of security protection for their deals, any suggestions, any kind words, any smart words?
I think don't get discouraged. If you're conscientious and conservative about your underwriting, don't give in. Continue being conscientious and conservative. Do the right deals. Don't rush to do the wrong deals, please.
Yeah, great
And
suggestion.
just because somebody calls themselves a TC does not mean that they know what they're doing. You need to interview anybody associated with your deal if you're relying on these people. Even title companies and closing attorneys, kind of wrapping back to what I said very early on. Don't trust their templates. I've seen it multiple times where custom terms were written into a purchase contract for a property and then the lending documents didn't match. In fact, I've got a deal where the attorney put a 4-year balloon. They got the date wrong. They put a 4-year balloon instead of a 5-year. And nobody noticed at closing, including me on my own deal.
Oh, wow.
Yep. And now I've got to go back to the title company or the closing attorney, and it might be she didn't like me. So it might be that it was intentional. Who knows? I kind of doubt that from professional conduct standpoint, but she got the year wrong, and now I've got a 4-year balloon instead of a 5-year. If the lender's okay to just amend it, then we're fine. But if they're not, then now I have to take it back to this closing attorney and duke it out with them. So attention to detail. Don't trust that anybody else has your best interest in mind. Make sure that you do. And then ask for referrals and look for reviews and things like that. You want to work with people with a proven track record. And I'm not just saying that because I've got one. I'm saying that because I've seen a lot of people let somebody work their deal as an act of charity because they feel like doing good and helping other people out. But an unproven person that's not the time to be putting all of your money at risk. Because if the deal is done wrong, some or all of your money could be unduly at risk. That's not the time to be charitable.
Yep.
Not
Be
with my deal.
careful. Be careful, absolutely. Yeah.
Hmm.
Thank you so much, Kelly, for all golden nuggets. I believe it was really, really valuable for community, for sub two, and not only for sub two, for people who are considering to start investing in real estate. It's great game, but it's not easy game. We really need to be careful and to see couple steps ahead.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
it.
Thank you so much, Kelly. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you for being today my guest. I appreciate it a lot. And happy Thanksgiving tomorrow for you and for your
Thank you.
family.
You too.
Thank you so much. Thanks.
Hmm.
Bye bye. Thank you so much, people, to be today with us. I believe Caleb gave you a lot of valuable information. As I said, I will put his links under this video. Please feel free to reach out directly to Caleb. And if you're considering to start investing in real estate and you like to be passive investor, probably private lending option is for you. So feel free to reach out to me. I can explain you how it works. Thank you so much for everyone to be today with us. Happy Thanksgiving tomorrow for you and for your families. Bye bye, guys.